Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to our first review episode of the season. A new season has begun, and we're back. And as you can see, there's already a few things in crisis. That's the headline for this show. And it's interesting, isn't it? One game goes by, and then suddenly there's crisis. But there is crisis. There's a few things I'll talk about. Let's introduce my guest first. Back again for the first time this season, Knayha. Welcome back to the show. Nice to have you again.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, last time we saw you, I think was the European Championships final preview.
Yeah.
That was the last
It
time.
did go to Rome though, so
Yeah, it ended up going to Rome. But anyway, well, it's not a big deal. It's not nothing for us to worry about because that was pre-season stuff, the fun stuff. This is the most serious stuff that we worry about. And now you got Prakher back again on the show. Prakher, you're becoming a regular on the show. I think you'll be a Nishikan for this year, where like you keep showing up for all these episodes, which is yes, it's great. It's awesome to have you. It's great to have you back anyway, because I mean, some of the things that we discussed. All right, let's start with the first game. Let's start with Arsenal and Brentford because I think this is a bit of a crisis thing. We talked about that. And Prakar, I'll bring you in on this because we actually spoke about this at last show and you were there. And and I said this, and I think even Saga might have mentioned this, but if Arsenal lost that game, there were going to be some serious questions asked. And then what did they do? They went and lost that game. And it's not surprising, to be honest. I mean, Brentford were playing their first game in the top ladder, 74 years. You're expecting their fans to be up for it. But it's just a narrative at this point, isn't it? With Arteta, is that there's something wrong at that club. There's something wrong in the team. There's something wrong at the club right now. Beyond just the result, and that's, if you look at it as an isolation of just being one game.
Yeah, I think that players are not motivated enough to play, right? I think they have just lost hope. And I think my prediction of them being out of top 10 can come true this season.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I hope not, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's too early to make predictions of places, but you're right. I mean, there is a lack of motivation. I think there is an issue there. But is it the manager's job to motivate the players, or is it the players themselves that should be motivated? I mean, surely at some point you think about professional pride and all that. Where does that fit in though? Like with Arteta at this moment?
I think it works both ways. You know, how does a manager motivate his team? They have to either be excited about what he has plans for as a team, or player he gets in. You know, how do you excite the whole team? Like, definitely we'll talk about Grealish and so on, but then that excites the whole team. So, and the other way also, because when the team suddenly feels that there is nothing new coming in, we're waiting for things to happen. How do you get them excited? Like, who's there? Like, if you think of Arsenal, there is nobody exciting that comes to your mind. There's no. Okay, Saka has had a different story altogether. Saka has had a brilliant Euro. He's been a champion. He's been a hero, and the way he's been. But that's the only player that everybody wants to talk about right now. Saka is the main man for Arsenal. But then, how much can that he's a young lad. How much can he excite, players who are much more experienced than him, who've won more trophies than him? So that's something which I think Arsenal lacks right now. Because also, if you see, they've only got Ben White in the transfers as well. That was again a defensive move. Obviously, they need more stability in defense because the goals that the way they conceded and so on from the previous season. But the creator, they're still fighting for Odegaard. They're waiting for clearance from Real Madrid to go on forward. But then it goes both ways, in my opinion, Rohit. And the only problem has been they've lacked this spark. Obviously, they did miss Lacazette and Aubameyang and the players at the start. It's the first game of the season, but in my view, first game of the season, you've had the whole preseason. You had a long time to prepare for it. It was not that the fixtures just come out like a day before and suddenly you're thrown out a wild card and you're playing Brentford. They knew what they will face. They knew exactly the style and so on and so forth. They had enough time. So that, in my view, was pretty strange. First game of the season with a newcomer, there's no spark. That was very strange.
We've seen this before. United played Burnley, I think, a decade ago, and then they went to Burnley, their first top flight game, I think, in 100 years or something, and they went and lost. And that was a United team that was managed by Sir Alex Ferguson. So it does happen. But the point of excitement, though, Prakar, I mean, this is an interesting that I was just thinking about. First of all, Arsenal actually have spent £75 million this season Just to be clear, they're not some skinned club. People talk about them being skinned, but they've spent 75 million pounds. Now you could argue the two of those players, Nuno Tavares, I believe, and the other one is Albert Sambi Lokonga. They might not play a lot, but they still spend money on that. So they spent 75 million pounds. The second part is that you spend 50 million pounds on a defender, and yet in any other club, you would think 50 million pounds on a defender, you think, wow, that's a big signing. And yet there's literally no fanfare. It's like everybody's just like wondering what's going on. So I mean, is it a jaded fan base, Prakher, at this point? If people like just want something different, because Arsenal are spending money, maybe they're not spending it right, but they are spending money. It again is.
I think they need some excitement. I think they need some excitement back.
Yeah.
Like if they even sign a small player, they should show like we have signed a player, like the way big clubs do, and that's what fans want, right? And if fans back their club, then the atmosphere changes quickly, as you know in football. The atmosphere is everything for a team to play for, and then players are motivated, manager is motivated, and they perform well. I think they need a change in management and the way they do things rather than changing players and managers.
The top management, right? I think that's something that does need to change at Arsenal. I think that's obvious. But I mean, in terms of signings, I think Odegaard is someone that I think they'll be pushing for. I don't know if that will happen, and I don't know how much of an impact that will be, but we shall see. But can I just a quick question? Well, it doesn't get easier for them. They've got Manchester City and they've got Chelsea next, and then they've got Manchester City after that. So we'll see what happens. Nishikant will tell you that they're probably going to beat Chelsea because that's what happens, but I don't know about that. But Nishikant, just a quick fun question. What's the who in the sack race? Do you think Arteta will be the first manager to be sacked? What's the over-under on Arteta being the first manager to be sacked this season? As for you, Knayha, I'm just you're muted.
I think Arteta will. I think it's going to be a Lampard. I think that's going to be the way it's going to go. It's going to be exactly how Chelsea, famously, backed someone, and then they realized mid-season that we've spent so much money here, and then suddenly we're not able to get a top-class manager who has some pedigree. Like, okay, he's won an FA Cup. So we're not denying that, but then that's it. He was an assistant to Pep Guardiola. That's his pedigree currently. He's not had a overwhelming season where he's kind of transformed to the way Arsenal players kind of made them play like crazy or something. It's not happened. And there are a lot of managers like outside right now who can easily come in. Arsenal who have won championships and titles and so on and so forth. But I think it's going to be a Lampard. I don't think he will be the only, because I'm just looking at all the Premier League clubs right now. I'm just thinking of them. I mean, he's the only one in my mind who is kind of shaking. He will have some shaky legs every day in the job. He's like, I really don't know what's going to happen, because if Arsenal is going to get world-class players, they need a world-class manager.
Well, that is true. So talk about having transformed Arsenal and making them play like crazy. Some would say that he has transformed Arsenal and they do play like crazy, except in a negative sense probably. But
the results just don't go their way. That's the only problem.
Well, I mean, but anyway, let's move on from that and move on to some positive stuff. Well, not positive stuff, but the smaller notes, I mean, the non-crisis stuff. Prakher, I mean, this is something interesting that I noticed. Well, Liverpool won 3-0 against Norwich. I think Liverpool are a bit underrated this season. I think they'll do much better than what they did last season. But the crowd went mild, almost. There was absolutely like buried deep in the news. Like there wasn't anything much. Is it? I mean, Knayha talks about excitement. Liverpool have not made a big signing for quite a while, unless you want to cut Thiago for 20 million pounds. But they haven't made a big signing for a while. Is there a bit of like feeling that Liverpool are kind of like just running the gears? I mean, I know they've got Van Dijk back, and he looks like a new signing. Cliche stuff, new signing. But is there a little? I mean, is Liverpool just an unsexy club? I mean, for lack of a better word, I mean, are they just an unsexy club at this point that people, you kind of know what you get with them, and they might win the league. They might win the league. I mean, I'm not discounting that, but it just feels like, it's like they're not there. They're functional.
Not there.
They're not. They're functional. They're
not clicking together, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying they're not. I think they're clicking together. I just feel like, as neutrals or as fans, we don't generally see them as like, I want to watch Liverpool play. I want to see them. It almost feels like same, right? It's like, I don't know. I want to be.
It feels like we are seeing the same team again and again and again.
Yeah, exciting one. Yeah, like Yeah, like
No
when you're in a
formation
marriage
change
for a
or
while and
play
then you
style
get bored.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, of your wife. But I'm not or husband, we're pretty inclusive. But no, I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
does that feel the same to you? It just feels that way to me, but does that feel the same way to you, Prakhar?
Yeah, I think so. Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have seen the same three forwards for last season and the season before that too. Right. The same
Mm-hmm.
team, same play style,
Yeah,
and they won the Champions League and the
Premier League. Yeah.
Premier League, but something needs to change, right? Last season they didn't perform that well with the same strategy. So I
Mm-hmm.
think some things need to change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is something that I found that I realized is that when Liverpool won the league title, who did they beat in their first game of the season? Norwich. Who did they beat this season? Norwich. What's
Norwich.
gonna happen? Oh my god, that would be. I don't know. I don't know.
But that's the exciting part. I think,
Hmm.
to be very frank, I think it's been a very conscious decision that
Mm-hmm.
they didn't make a big splurge. They didn't go out and bought the Lukaku's or Sancho's, which were like money flowing around, because I think they just wanted to consolidate. They you have to understand that they didn't have their top 11 last season at all.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the season, Liverpool was playing like they were just kind of catching up. They were like just get in someone,
Yeah.
and with and if you see how what they've done, so that's something that's not talked about much. What they have done smartly, in my view, is not added players, but confirmed their set core for a longer time. Like if you right now see, Van Dijk is signed till 26, I think. Fabinho is signed till 25. And I think there are two more players who have signed the new contracts.
Yeah. Well,
And
Henderson's gonna get a new one as well.
Yes.
So.
So basically they're saying that we don't want to spend more money so that we have to like we'll have to get our wage bill much higher. We'll keep our players, give them a better wage, and make them stay for longer, and that just gives more stability.
Yeah.
I think Klopp knows the fact that this team has more to offer, and I think he's very smart the way he's now playing Jota. To be very frank, if you saw the game, not starting Firmino, but starting Jota instead was basically a sign saying that, do we need someone like Kane up front? Do we need something exciting somewhere? Because Salah will be their big game player. But then I think that's the way they've kind of being a little smart in my view.
Yeah, well, Jota needs to be in the team. I think that I forgot about Jota. He's probably a big signing. You could count him as a big signing. There was a sub last season, but yeah, I think he needs to be in the team. I think he definitely needs to be in the team. And it's good if that is the policy going forward, is they're going to try to integrate him into the team. That's necessary and that's good. On the note of stability, I don't want to talk about it, but sometimes people do say that if you have too many players who are too comfortable, then that creates an issue. So you want to keep creating competition as well. But it's a long season, and I'm not going to count on Liverpool. I think they will be. I like I said, I think they'll be in the top three. I think that's for sure that they'll be in the top three. And controversial opinions aside, but I think that's where they will finish. And the reason, and then who's my fourth team? I've already said who's going to finish fourth. I know people probably don't agree with it, but I think that's that's still my opinion. And speaking of that, Chelsea. They had a good start as well. A nice little goal. An academy player scores a goal. Comes Trevor Chalobah does very well. I don't think we learned anything new, did we, about Chelsea? We know the way that they play. They're still going to play the same way. Was any? I mean, Prakhar, was any takeaway for you from that game, from that result for Chelsea? I didn't think we learned. I think we know that Chelsea are going to be there or thereabouts this season. They're probably going to be in the top three. For sure. So you can see how I'm eliminating my who's going to be finishing fourth, but they'll be in the top three. But is there anything new that you learned about Tuchel from that game?
No, I think it's too early to say about them because their new signings were not there, right? Lukaku was not there, and I think one another player they signed was also not there.
Well, there is the reserve goalkeeper, but he was probably not going to be playing anyway. Bettinelli was not going to be.
Yeah, but look, their main striker was not there.
Yeah,
right?
he's
Lukaku
not. He's just about
there.
signed. So he'll probably play the next game. Yeah, that'll be an interesting battle. Yeah, it's hard to make conclusions now at this point.
What was very interesting to me in the Chelsea game was like we saw the best of Ziyech till he got injured. I think last season it was like, was he even playing? Like there were moments where we were like, okay, where's Ziyech? he's like getting the ball
Injured.
behind the half line or something, or he's like whenever he would
injured.
play or when he would. Now he's injured.
Yeah, well, that's what's thing. He used to play well until he got injured. That's what last season he used to play well until he got injured.
That's exactly what happened again. But then he didn't even. I think the only thing what I was happy about was like we could see. Okay, so the players that they've signed from Germany, both Werner was there. Werner was there. He was his runs were kind of crazy, and I think Lukaku was a great signing just to boost his confidence. But Havertz was there. He was making, because he had a very good Euro. He was the main striker. Yeah. He had a very good Euro, and then so these signing, like I think it's a curse, like the first season curse for every new signing, that you can't expect much out of them. You have to kind of give them one more year to kind of get used to the English way and so on and so forth. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited. Will these three now click? Because if you see, the front three picks itself out immediately. Now you have Lukaku coming in center, you have Werner, you have Mount, and you have Ziyech. Havertz can kind of play somewhere in the middle as well. They can switch around. So Lukaku is now the main man. So it's like he will hold off the big defenders, because that's the problem that Werner had. Even Havertz has. He can't hold off Van Dijk. Because Van Dijk is back. He can't hold off.
The only person who can hold off Van Dijk is Jordan Pickford. That's the only guy who can hold off.
It's like that's he can't hold off. He can just get the hell out of it.
Tackle him. But anyway.
So that's the game. So I think Chelsea and Tuchel has been very smart also about the fact that he's kind of said that, okay, I just want one main man. They've basically gone the Drogba route. They've gone the Drogba route again. They're like, I just need one big man in the center, and I'll play around him. I'll be able to move the game with the players, because Mount has been sensational. I don't know, Jorginho has found some crazy form from somewhere in the Euros, and and also Kante is always there. He's playing forward. He's kind of going. He's been given a free will. Yeah. What would be interesting? So Norwich, was not that. Like for Liverpool as well, the Norwich game, and for Chelsea, the Crystal Palace game. If Benteke or somebody was starting for Crystal Palace, then it would have been a little more challenging in the defense. I felt that the defense was not tested enough, because they were starting with like an academy player who even scored Chalobah, and that was kind of interesting. So with premier sides, with much more with pedigree, with higher better players like Cavani against them, that will be very interesting to see how this goes. So I'm pretty. So I think that's their weak point right now. Chelsea have strengthened up front, which I think did not require that much strengthening. But then I don't know.
They've got a stacked forward line now, haven't they? They've got Lukaku, Werner, Havertz, Mount, Pulisic, and then you've got Ziyech as well.
Exactly.
6 players for 3 positions. So that's what you want. I think that'll be that will be one to watch.
One more Champions League in the belt. I think that's decided. We've just played one more Champions League. We just need one more.
I know. That will be what it is. But yes, well, I mean, tougher tests will await. Yes, for sure. Pakha, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'm saying Ziyech is like Dembele for Chelsea, right? Plays one game and then injured.
Well, I think same with Pulisic as well. He gets injured a lot as well. Not the one game, but I think that's a good point too. Yeah, there'll probably be injuries for those players. So you probably do need 6 players if you're going to have 2 of them. But I mean, it will be exciting to watch Chelsea this season. I think a lot of people are tipping them to do well. And the final one that we want to talk about. Well, actually, before that, Crystal Palace. I think if there's one manager who's probably going to compete with Arteta in the sack race, that's probably going to be Patrick Vieira based on this performance. Because I don't know. I mean, he says he wants more signings now, which is obviously what every manager says, because that's the only way to solve problems, isn't it? To throw more money at a institution. But Prakher, what's the over? I asked Knayha about the over under Arteta sacking. What's the over under on Vieira being the first manager being sacked this season?
I don't think so. He will be sacked that quickly.
Well, not yet. Well, you think Arteta will be sacked first?
Yeah, I think Arteta will be sacked first.
Okay.
Given the level of the club they are at, right? Crystal Palace and Arsenal.
Okay.
Maybe also the pedigree that he comes from. Roy Hodgson was there, and then they got somebody as a makeshift, because they knew that they couldn't get somebody bigger. That I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
And they've given Arteta already a year. He's been there for 2 years now. This is his 3rd season. So he's already been with the team. He already should know now what is the best lineup that he's still struggling with that. To be very frank, I still feel that Smith Rowe and whether Saka play well together, but then I don't know. He's still given to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I will just say this: Arteta gets sacked, and Vieira quits and says, "I want to manage Arsenal." If one doesn't work, why not another legend, right? Another Arsenal legend. If one doesn't work, get another one. I don't think it will happen, but that
maybe Crystal Palace versus Arsenal will decide which manager gets sacked.
Yeah. Would it be like? Is Crystal Palace a step up or is Arsenal a step up? I don't know anymore. Well, actually, we don't know. But anyway, let's not waste any more time. I think we've taken enough pot shots as Arsenal for one show. Sorry, Arsenal fans. But anyway, we'll move on to Manchester United. 5-1 win. I mean, Knayha, how good Bruno and Pogba? How good are they?
Wow. Oh my, that was a dream. That was just a dream. That's the Pogba we just wanted. Like I'm like that's the when he missed that step over and he put the ball outside, I was like he was about to score. He didn't, and I was like, he definitely doesn't have his scoring boots on. And then when he starts assisting like that, I'm like, this can go wild and very cool. And then that's what happened. It just went wild very soon. He has that. And then these guys, like, I don't know, it's like telepathically, it's like he knows where he is and so on. And I think they've practiced it so well. But it was just a dream. And Bruno Fernandes, his finishing, the way he just moves, he's just floating around. He knows exactly where the spaces are. Finishing is like top class. There's no doubt that he's not going to score if he gets the ball there. And even Greenwood, the way, like, come on, Fred scored. So
yeah, I know. Once Fred scores, then your defense has not done very well in that game. I think that Fred and Van Bissaka should never score in a game. I mean, not that they should never score, but a team should consider an insult if either of those two score a goal. I think that I just feel that not that I have anything against either of those players. I think they're fantastic players, but they're not goal scorers. So if you allow them to score goals, and that means you're doing something wrong, really wrong, defensively. Prakher, I mean, it's hard to read again. It's one game. It's hard to read too much into it. And I mean, the only question mark, I guess, is in that midfield. Can that midfield still be creative enough against the low block? And now the other issue, though, is Victor Lindelof, because he had a good game, but he's probably the guy who's going to have to make way for Varane. Do you think, there's all this talk about Solskjaer finding a place, like playing him as a CDM. Does he fit as a CDM? I don't think he does, but does he fit as a CDM according to you?
I don't think so. I think he's a defender and he should be there only.
Yeah.
I don't think he should play CDM. And if he plays CDM, then which player will make way for him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be Fred, right? Fred probably is the obvious choice. He did score a goal, but he didn't have a good game. I didn't think he had a good game aside from that goal. So he probably would be the one to make way. But still, you want to play. The big issue with Lindelof is his physicality. And then CDM, you need physicality. So you take, I don't know. But I mean, that's something for Ollie to figure out. Do you like Pogba as a left winger? I think this is a question that always divides opinions. Some people want him to play as a CDM. Some they want him to play centrally, not as a CDM. They want to play centrally. What is your opinion on Pogba playing as a left winger? Because I have an opinion on that, but I will say it after I listen to yours first.
I think he should play, but I think he's more suitable as a false nine kind of player, right?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Oh, Pogba is a false nine.
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that of Pogba being a false nine, but that's an intriguing option. I think Bruno plays as a false nine.
Bruno plays
as a false nine.
Yeah, he could. But I mean, Pogba as a false nine, I don't know. I mean, I guess if Bruno plays as a false nine, then you could play Pogba centrally. I just think Pogba is not a player. If you're not going to play him as a central midfielder, I think his best position is as a central midfielder. That's like an old-fashioned central midfielder. That's where his best position is. But if you're not going to play him there, I think he's wasted as a number 10. I think he's wasted as a number 4. Then he's got to play as a left winger because that's his next best position. Because from there, he can dictate. But that's my opinion. And I've seen David Silva do it, and he was excellent at it. And somehow I just feel that there's this English bias that if somebody is not fast, they can't be a winger. If somebody's creative, they've got to play centrally. It's almost like, positions are kind of defined rigidly, whereas, there's so many examples in football of not fast players being very good wingers or, creative players not necessarily playing centrally. That's just what
to add upon that, now United doesn't need a fast winger.
Yeah.
Like they have Sancho and they have Luke Shaw.
Yeah.
He can still play at his own pace.
Yeah.
Pogba's new left wide position was created when he was playing for the French team.
Yep.
that's where he started. That's where Deschamps, was at the start, he kind of discussed with him and wanted him to start on the left. And suddenly he realized, okay, he can cross balls as well, and he can move, and he can move centrally, he can cut in diagonally, and his favorite foot is right as well. He can shoot from outside as well, outside the box from long range as well. So I think the best position is central for him, but then I think it just limits him. It just limits him somehow because he can't, because it's central, so he can't just move there. He can't leave that position as well. He can't because it just makes the whole midfield or the defense kind of vulnerable because he's not going to come back as well. So when you leave when he's on the left, it's just much easier for the defense and the whole team to kind of move around that way. So I feel it's a left that works for him. And also now United have Sancho also coming in, and they have some fast players. They don't need him to kind of run that way to be an out and out winger. Because Luke Shaw kind of plays up front. Luke Shaw is the I don't know. He just plays amazing. He's just on a different form altogether.
We could talk about Luke Shaw's transformation. That's we don't have the time. But I just feel that with Pogba, if you play, he does strike back. By the way, I should say this. He keeps saying he does strike back. Nowadays he strikes back. He actually used to play left midfield under Ollie for the reserves. That's where he started out. He didn't, because like all players, you want to play centrally. He wanted to play centrally. He never got the opportunity, so he left. But I just feel as a CDM, he is limited because you're telling him to do a job that he doesn't want to do. And he will do it, and he will do it to the best of his ability. I'm not saying he doesn't try, but I just feel like he doesn't want to do that job. He doesn't feel like that's his best position. So you play him on the left is where he can kind of, it's kind of best of both worlds because he can do his creative stuff. He can be close to goal. He can get his numbers up, and then you kind of don't expect him to do as much defensive stuff as well. So I just think that. But that being said, I think against smaller teams, you probably might want to play him as a CDM and then bring in Sancho. Maybe in I don't know, maybe bring in Sancho, maybe so you got a bit of creativity there as well. Then you've got three creative players on the pitch with Bruno, him, and Sancho, and hopefully break teams on. That'll be the next test though, which will be trying to see if they can break down low block teams. I think that's when we'll know where United. I don't think this Leeds game really tells much, in my opinion. I don't think it says much about United because we know they do well in these kind of games. But now let's move on to the final one.
But then for the Leeds game, it was just that was pretty cute because what the last game was, like last season when they played, it was pretty open. The game was pretty open. In the same way it started, but then United could, and it was like 1-1, and then go into second half. That was a switch, and Pogba stepped up. It's like that's what we asked for like the whole previous season, that we wanted Pogba to kind of step up a little because we know he can create it, he can do it. We were just all, but when Pogba had the ball, we were like, give it to Bruno. And now suddenly we're like, Pogba can do this. So I think that does say a lot. But Southampton getting into like the Burnleys and so on, and then that'll be interesting to see how he kind of fares well.
Yeah, I think with Pogba it's that, right? The thing is, we know he can do it. He can do it. Can he do it 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row? The great players, they do that. Can he do that? I think he can. I think he has the ability. But the execution is the important thing. So we'll see about that. But let's move to the final game. I think we're kind of running out of time, and we've kind of done a lot of discussion. So final one, we'll finish on we started on a crisis note. Let's finish on a bit of a crisis note. It's not a crisis, is it? But Manchester City lost to Spurs. A result that I didn't predict. I don't think anyone predicted them losing to Spurs, but they lost 1-0. I don't think anybody did. I know, and even the most optimistic of Spurs supporters were probably thinking a draw. I don't know if somebody did. Maybe somebody took a bet on it or whatever, but I don't know if anyone was predicting that. This is 3 games now that they haven't scored, by the way. They didn't score against Chelsea. They didn't score against Leicester. They haven't scored now against Spurs. Prakher, is there now clearly an issue like with teams playing a low block? They got away with it last season. But looks like now if teams are defending properly, they're having troubles again breaking them down.
Yeah, I think so. They are having troubles. And I think not having a main striker is also causing them problems, right? Therefore, they wanted Kane.
Yeah, well, they do want Kane. I just think if it's the issue of having a consistent goal scorer rather than striker, because if you think about last season's purple patch, it was basically Gundogan who was scoring goals from outside the box. It was Stones and Diaz scoring set piece goals, which normally you don't associate City with headers. They were doing that, and that allows them to get those goals. Now Gundogan for some reason has gone back to things that is 2019 again. There's no longer 2020 again. He's back to 2019 again. He's an inconsistent player. Stones obviously wasn't available, and Diaz, I mean. His form seems to have dipped from the Euros a little bit. I don't think he's looking as solid. So they're missing out on those goals. They're missing consistent goal scorers.
think it's so they got found out, to be very frank. They've done this. Okay, Aguero was there, but he didn't start a match last season, and then he left. So now people know what their weakness is. So if you stop, so who did they count on? Gundogan, and also the set pieces. Now the games that they've had, Stones has not been there. The partner that Diaz has always kind of trusted on. They played with Ake.
Yeah.
Ake has had a terrible 3 games. Like he will just want to forget those 3 games. He's like, and all 3 games of all the goals that they've scored, if you see, Ake is there somewhere. Like there is a way that he slept somewhere, or there's a ball going through his legs or something. And also when you started Mendy, that I think that I can talk defensively. They've had an issue when they have. Then the teams know that Ake and Mendy don't go well because Mendy doesn't. His process has not been as amazing as he was in the first season when he started. But then he's tried to make it up with his defense, but that's not happened. Kyle Walker is their best because people will, they will score again. People will score as counters on them. They know, and best track back, best person to catch a ball on a counter is Kyle Walker. He was not starting the game. But then going up top, what City has, what Grealish gives them is what Sterling gave them a couple of seasons ago. Like they needed that spark. So Grealish now is that spark. Sterling has now a partner, but then there is still, but if you see what Grealish used to do, he used to feed Watkins. Now, who is their Watkins? Who is their goal scorer? Who is the threat? Jesus is not a goal threat. He basically plays like a winger because he kind of cuts. He likes to cut through. He's not a poacher. He's not a 6-yard dash kind of a player. Harry Kane is, but then that's what they're fighting for. But then there's a lot of. I think that's kind of the reason as well. To be very frank, somewhere in the mind, just they've not scored.
Yeah.
The Premier League winners have not scored yet in any game. Now, I don't know. It should definitely be. It's definitely. I'm very sure it's on the mind of all the City fans as well. Like, okay, 3 games, interesting. Well, what's going to happen now, and who's going to be? Because I don't see any goals coming from anyone else. Like, okay, Ferran Torres had a lot of chances. Riyad Mahrez should have drilled that one on the top corner. I don't know how he missed it. But then I think that's somewhere in the mind. It could be that they don't have a striker, and they have and there's a pressure because they have to score goals. You don't win games if you don't score. They're missing chances, and it has to come. There has to be somewhere. I really don't see. Okay, if Sterling goes in again, he doesn't have the physicality. He can't. You can make runs. The City can be as fluid as they want, but then when the defense you saw the game, against Tottenham, when the minute they scored, they could not penetrate them. City were like, what are we doing? Because if you see the passes as well, the touches just went wayward and they were going backwards. That was the interesting thing to me. I've not seen City go that back when they're kind of attacking. The Grealish has the ball is kind of going back to Edison, or that was pretty strange. I'm like, okay, this is something that I've not seen because they've been very confident that they're going forward. Like they're not kind of going back. So that's something I think, in my view, will take some time, and they have to score. The first drought has to kind of get over.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes you get the fear of getting counted on, and then you start going behind. Prakher, I mean,
it felt like a blunt sword, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a blunt sword. The tip is missing. Jack Grealish, though, I mean, he was always going to get a stick. He's going to get stick no matter what. He's gone to Manchester City. It's 100 million. He's a 100 million pound player, whatever that means. He's a 100 million pound player, and the first question is he what City needed? I mean, is he just much of a muchness? I mean, as we say, right? Is he too similar to the other players around him? Is he what City needed? It's hard to make. I mean, it's only one game, and he played as a central midfielder, which I don't think is his position anyway. I don't think he should be playing in central midfield right now at this point. But what did you make of his first game for City? Aside from his dives, I know we was talking about that. No, I'm just kidding. But
I think he played well, but I think the point that Knayha said, that they don't have a main striker, right? They don't have that threat. Like going forward, they don't have that threat. Like this player, you don't know that which player will score goals. Like if you have a striker, you know that he can score goals. We have that main man, and he will
Yeah.
score goals. But right
Yeah,
now,
it's-
City is missing that,
It's
and
too many.
that shows in their gameplay, right?
Yeah,
When
it's
you
too many
don't have a
creative
striker.
players. Yeah, too many cooks. Not cooks. I don't know what the word is. Too many. I don't know.
Too
I'm
many
out of
chefs.
metaphors.
Too many chefs don't know how to, and then they don't make a recipe or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
missing
well,
that.
I'm
as well.
missing it.
It's
It's like too many roads, but not the final destination. There's nobody to get that final.
Yeah, it said
make
too
that
many
final
cooks
contribution.
spoil the brook.
But yeah, spoil the broth. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, I'm missing out on metaphors here. But anyway, interesting point though. Grealish, of course, we talk about that. One more thing to talk. Actually, yes, I think more than a goal scorer, I think the player that, and I know people will talk about Aguero and and about replacing him. I think City have not replaced Sane. I think that is a player that they never replaced. The guy who could make direct runs, who was not afraid to take players on and beat them. The way he did that, they did that 3 years ago. I think the way he did that, they never replaced that. They never got that. And Sterling doesn't do that. Mahrez doesn't do that. They need somebody like that who can just run at players with the ball. I think that's going to be important. But Knayha, I mean, we've all insulted City, and we all know what's going to happen next. It's going to be 150 million pounds or 150 million euros, whatever that's going to be coming out. A check is going to be written, and Harry Kane's going to be a City player. That's what's going to happen, isn't it? At this point,
definitely. There's no City are like after not like there is no way.
Yeah,
he should have been in the stadium at least. Like that.
Well, he was in the stadium. Well, he was in the stadium. Harry Kane. He was watching the game apparently.
No, that's what they say. They didn't know that where he was not in the stadium.
Okay. Reportedly, he was in the stadium, but nobody saw him. But yes, Kane, right? Yeah. Well, I suppose you don't want to because you don't want the camera to show up on you, right? And then you either get booed or whatever happens. I don't think because I mean it's difficult for him to react as well, right? If Spurs score a goal, how does he react? If City scores a goal, how does he react, right? So
that's
I think
the thing. So like what happens when the next time he wears a blue jersey? So it's good. So he wants it. He wants to play Champions League. That's very simple. He's very clear about it.
Yeah.
How City getting beat by Spurs kind of winning a one-off, that's not going to change the decision of playing Champions League. This is a world-class player. He's 28.
Yeah.
He's at the prime. He's scoring 33 goals, 33 goals every season. For whom? That's the main question. For whom is he scoring? He's scoring for Spurs, who are not even in Champions League. He's one of the best players. He's one of the best players out there. He's like amazing. I don't know why United never signed him, why Alex Ferguson didn't. But then I don't want to go into that because I'll just go.
I think his peak came after, like he came to prominence after Sir Alex retired.
But then there was a time that was a time because I think that was a time when United were they did speak.
Yeah, but at that time Spurs were a better team than United. To be honest, there was a 3-year period.
There was a Pochettino there. Pochettino was there. He was there. But then,
and now it's too pricey. Too pricey.
He's like. So I'm like, it's a poker game right now with Daniel Levy and so on and so forth. It's a poker game.
No, I think that deal will happen. I think that deal will happen. I think the only question, it's a matter of when. Will it happen before this week? Will it happen before next week? But it will happen. And I think, I don't think this result changes it. If anything, it changes City's determination to get him because I think if they'd won, they would be like, well, do we need Kane? Maybe not. But now it's like, well, no, we need him. They need him. And,
I think they want him. I think they've been very clear. City has been very clear since the Euros. Since City has basically said that we want Harry Kane. That's it. If Levy doesn't want to negotiate, and the Kane interview, which went kind of crazy, the way he kind of marketed himself, saying 100 million. If Tottenham gets 100 million for me, we'll have a discussion. But then that was not the point. That he was unprofessional in a way because he was kind of marketing himself and saying, I'm up for 100 million. Whoever has the money can spend it and get it. But then that he's under contract. He still has 3 years under his contract. So that's pretty unprofessional. But then he's a player who wants to play Champions League. That is it. That's his goal. And he knows City, if not today, if Kane comes to City and City don't win anything, which is highly unlikely, City don't win anything, he knows a year later they will win everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, City, well, there's always the Carabao Cup for City to win, which they seem to win each year. So if nothing else, he will add a Carabao Cup this year.
Yeah, you can just change the name to City Cup altogether. So now
I know. I mean,
but the question for me is,
yes.
if they couldn't they have signed Messi instead of Kane if they're having so much problem signing Kane, and Messi was a free agent, right? And Pep wanted Messi, and Messi wanted to play for City last year. And when things didn't fell through, could have they gone for Messi instead?
So the
Pep
Messi
did say
deal,
about it.
yeah, the Messi deal was the Jack Grealish deal. So they signed Jack Grealish because they couldn't get Lionel Messi. I think they always wanted, because Messi doesn't play as a striker, right? He plays as a winger, so you still have that issue of a striker. So I think if they had known that Messi wasn't going to make it, they would have signed him instead of Grealish. But the Kane deal, I think, was always something that they wanted to do, even if they had signed Messi. So the Kane deal is independent. The issue though now for Jack Grealish, of course, that he's not Messi, and I think he will always be compared as being not Messi. Would Messi have been a better signing than Grealish? And I think that will be something that he'll have to live with for a long time in his career. I just feel that these are things that make or break players, right? And I think that's something that will be interesting. That will be something to watch for him as well. But I mean, we're kind of running out of time, and I mean, we've kind of got a lot. We haven't even covered Spurs. I mean, Spurs win was so excellent. We haven't even covered them. So apologies to Spurs. We just talked about City and what they're doing. But I mean, I just want to end on this though. Graham Souness, you're a brat for what you said. I mean, if you haven't, if anybody's watching this and doesn't know what that's about, just go and check out his comments on Paul Pogba and and Majkovic. It's the whole thing that happened there. It's just, I mean, it's sad, and I think people in the media need to take more of a stand against this kind of blatant stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not, yeah. So anyway, just I want to end. I don't want to discuss it right now because I know we're out of time and probably discuss that. But just Graham Souness needs to get a life, seriously. But anyway, on that note, thank you so much, Knayha. Thank you so much, Prakher, for joining me on this show. Really excited to have your insights. And of course, City have got a good game coming up. They've got Norwich. I mean, of all teams to play, probably Norwich are a great team to bounce back against because they play open football. So they'll let City score 3 or 4 goals if they have to. That's not a problem. I think so.
I hope that City can score a goal. I don't want because they'll start running right. If they score the first goal in the first couple of minutes, they're just going to start running right. And then Grealish and Norwich
that's what's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen. I think so. Let's see how this
that's where it is. And then of course, who knows if they'll have 150 million signing to show off at that point. I think that's what we're all waiting on at this point. That's what the
4 weeks of the transfer window, so anything can happen.
Yeah, there's still 2 weeks to go, and there's still lots of players that could be moving on. And of course, players that we haven't even seen yet. Lukaku. We're still waiting on Lukaku. We're still waiting on a few others to make their debuts as well for their clubs. So Varane, I don't want to make it to United Center, but yes, Varane as well is still out there. And then there's so many others. I mean, Spurs have signed a few players. Villa have signed. Well, we haven't even seen Leon Bailey make a start yet. He did come off the bench. So there's all sorts of players that we're still waiting on. So it's still very early days. We're not making any predictions at this point, but there's a few things to sort out. So anyway, thank you so much, Knayha. Thank you so much, Prakher, for joining me on the show. Really great. Glad as always to have your insights. If anybody's watching this, thank you so much for watching. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And we'll keep producing more of this content. And I mean, it's a bit sad. Last year we had a game every 2-3 days, and it was nice. Now we've got like this whole week in between us, so we don't know what to do. That's it. I know it was hell for the players. It was nice for us as fans because you get to watch like games like every 2-3 days. It's nice unless your team gets knocked out. But even otherwise, it's nice to watch 2-3 games. A game every.
It's been lovely.
Yeah,
that was like getting game back to back. That was just amazing.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, not good for the players. It was good for us as fans because you have something to look forward to in midweek. Because now you've got to wait all the way till Saturday to see a game. But anyway, we'll be back with the preview show for this week's games if we can. We tried. I mean, I know it's again United fans. We tried to get teams of other fans, but I think Arsenal and Chelsea fans, City fans, were just too disappointed to show up. But we'll try to get the fans on other clubs. It's not for the want of trying. It's just the want of interest, and we'll try that. But anyway, thank you for watching. And have a good day or night, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.